Okay. Yep. I'd like to call to order the property meeting for October 14th, 2024 for the County Board Property Committee. All right, certification, open meeting laws, Paul?
Yes, there was kind of a little snafu. I gave it to Dawn last Wednesday, but I think she was thinking about being gone.
Oh.
She texted me on Friday and said she didn't do it, so I had to come in and do it. So it got done on Friday, which is still 24.
Good, yep. Okay, we've got a 10-item agenda. Everybody look through it, and I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Doc, second by Rich to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, none, motion carried. Okay, everybody got the minutes from the previous meeting. Any corrections, additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Dick to approve.
Second.
Second by Rich. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. Next is number 5. We've got members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call at 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee board chair and after advisement by the committee board. All right. We'll give them a couple minutes. Everybody settle down as they're coming in. Let's see here. Okay. Well, we'll keep it open and go to the Samuels Group. Kurt, you have Samuels Group discussion on the building project. Update on project plans.
Good morning, everyone. Just a reminder from last month, there was an approval to move forward with the venture, updating the plans with the premise of not utilizing the south wing for anything, because it may be future community room or child care center. So to get to that point, Becky, Tim, and Jeremy have met with the department heads and have put together kind of a summary of the butts in seats, so to speak, of how many people and locations that are there, and some proposed preliminary layouts. And those have been delivered to Venture. Venture hasn't started on any of that redesign. I think Becky wants to meet with the health department yet this morning to confirm some of that data. But the premise is to be able to fill in that north courtroom with space, the south courtroom, and then the balance of the building, the balance of the layout. There's minimal changes to, or we're trying to minimize the amount of changes to the existing layout, but then there would be finish upgrades for those spaces, which would mean flooring, ceiling, paint, and we talked about potentially having alternates for ceilings. The one component that is going to be something that Venture needs to look into is in that north courtroom, it's being able to have entrance from that corridor to those 3 departments in that corner, which is county clerk, treasurer, and register of deeds. And I think the wish or the desire would be to move that wall back a bit, but we may have some structural implications that Jeremy had done some site evaluation, got that to Venture, and Venture's structural engineers are going to look at it. I can tell you from a budget perspective, I'm going to be pressing the pause button because we don't want to dive into a bunch of structural things from cost. So there may be some things we're going to ask Venture to see if they can come up with a different layout or configurations to minimize structural impact, because there is a bearing wall that's there. So that's going to have to be worked through. And again, the premise has been to cut down scope to keep our budget intact. So those sorts of things, we've got to get health department information to Venture, then Venture can work on a floor plan. My goal would be to then bring you guys that preliminary floor plan for review before we give Venture green light to bring in all their mechanical and electrical consultants. So I want to agree on a floor plan before we give them green light and they start to dive into everything. So that floor plan isn't done today. I don't know that they could have it done by next Monday. I'm trying to find a way that we could get to you guys rather than waiting another month, because I don't think we need an entire month to get to that. But I have, with other ad hoc or other committees, I have shared with them floor plans via email so that you guys could look at it prior to your meeting in November. So I don't know if that is an opportunity or an option, or if you want to be in person for a discussion. If that's the case, then maybe we have a special meeting before your meeting in November. But that's kind of where we stand with the progress on the plans.
Kurt, if you got the plans together ahead of time, I think if you could send them to us email, or even just send them to Paul, and he could put them into our
Packet.
mail box, and then we could come in and get them if you got another meeting or you got another meeting or something, and just pick them up and just to look at them, really.
Okay.
So that when we do meet with you, we already have some idea of what we're looking at and exactly what we like and what we don't like.
Yep.
And this way, we don't have to have a special meeting just to get the plans in here. I think we can get them out to everybody. Everybody comes here once or twice a month anyway.
Okay.
Or for like, do you, Doc, they could just email it to you. You got printer at home, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so one or the other, which works for you. I think for the committee at least, if everybody would get it, are you guys in agreement with that, or? Okay.
Sounds good?
Okay. Okay, anybody have any questions for him, for Kurt? If not, we'll go on to B. Date and time for the final walkthrough it's next Monday,
Next Monday, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Yep,
I won't be there, so.
okay.
I'll make the meeting that night, but I'm not gonna make that 3 o'clock, so. All right, everybody's okay with that, and then, Paul, did you let everybody know? I think we announced it at the last board meeting about the walkthrough. John, didn't you? Did you mention at the board meeting? I think you did. Yeah, but maybe,
The time, go ahead.
Time has changed, I think.
yeah, so
Was it 9 o'clock?
if you,
It was at 9, we moved it to 3, because the request was that I would be present for the board meeting on the 21st to give them an update on the progress of the drawings. So it was me being kind of selfish of being here at 3, we could do the walkthrough, and then I'll stick around for 7. I also think, did Vance get to you that they're going to deliver the ODIP check
Yep.
on the
Yeah.
21st? Okay, so he wanted me there for that, so if there were any questions about how that worked and how that rolled out, I'll be there for that presentation of the check on the county, for the county board on 21st, so.
okay,
And
so,
John can announce tonight at the meeting, the change of time on this walkthrough, so. Kind of
We've
remember.
got a county board meeting tonight.
yeah.
Oh,
so-
okay, got you.
God damn it. All right. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Discussion and possible action on renovation. We just kind of discussed that.
We did that on the 8th.
What was that?
On-
Well,
Well,
8th
the-
was update on that
the-
project.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, got you.
Yeah.
C is
good.
on this project.
So does anybody have anything else on this for Kurt?
Sounds good.
So, all right, thank you, Kurt. Next up, we have IT, Tim Robertson. You have the floor. Look a little stiff there, Tim.
Push the button.
Good morning.
Morning.
Updates about things going on. There was an Avenue outage on Friday. They are our finance solution, and they are hosted at multiple locations. But their Texas location, where our data resides, somebody cut the fiber to that operation, and pretty much all day Friday, right, Paul?
Was all day. Well, that night it was on already.
Yeah, and they did send another update this morning. They're still looking for clarification as to how it happened and if there's going to be procedures changed in the future to prevent such outages. It is one of the
They
downfalls.
did say it was a construction company that cut it.
Yeah, but why didn't the redundant loop work is the question I want to know. it is one of the things it's the state of play in the world today. You're going to have a lot of your data offsite. It's just not, it's not always offered. They really want to host the data now. So that's the drawback, is that we're at the mercy of the connectivity between us and wherever our data is. And not a big fan of that, but I think they handled it well, and we're moving on. This month is Cybersecurity Month. We'll be doing a campaign in the next couple of weeks, keeping people up to date. We did receive a really large packet that I've distributed to some of the key stakeholders regarding the 2024 election threat landscape. There are state actors, Russia and Iran are mentioned prominently, that are attempting to gain access through credentials. It doesn't specifically say why they want access, but they are the ones that are trying to steal people's credentials. I learned 2 new words in this latest report: quishing. So they send those QR codes. You're familiar with the little funky looking square? Apparently people let their guard down when they get their camera out and they take the picture of it, and it takes them to a link where normally they would hover over the link and verify where it, because that's what we've trained them to do, verify where that link is taking you. But with the QR code, they don't pay attention to what pops up. They just hit the button and away they go. So that's becoming a common state actor attack. And then smishing. Most phone systems now are, including our Zoom, allows people to send SMS messages, text messages through your phone system. So smishing is they're leveraging that SMS to try and get you to click and say your credentials have expired, and then you put it in. So we have to update our staff on these 2 new threats because we've never really dealt with that before. There are also reports of hacktivists, people looking to gain access to how agencies in charge of elections are handling data, and we keep all of our polling machines. They never touch the internet. Paul's been a big advocate for that all along, but they want to get at registration data. They want to get at reports. So when we finalize our numbers and Paul sends an email saying, okay, the data's ready, they want to intercept that and then mess with the numbers, because they're not trying to change the outcome. They're just trying to create the idea that there's something wrong. So our concern last time, and will remain this time, is that we make sure that our connectivity to our website, where the numbers are being posted, is clean, and that the numbers match what Paul has on the night of the election matches what's on the website, and at no point does anybody go in there and muss with those numbers. So that's our primary concern, because as we said, the data itself is safe, but people getting a hold of it and manipulating it is our primary concern. So we're keeping an eye out for that. I can email, it's a 21-page report that came, and it is a white paper, so it's available to anyone. I could email the whole group if you'd like to take a look at it. It's very helpful if you're looking for a way to fall asleep at night. You could read this and just drift off. Printing update, we switched over in February to our new print services contract. We had our first full quarterly bill cycle. This come up in August. We are on track. So far we're under 10K per quarter on printing. Previously we're 14.5 in prior years with the old contract. So we are printing less. The strategy is working, so that's going well. We've run into an issue with our squad video solution. 4.5 years ago, we went through a company called WatchGuard and provided squad video and the backup system here to archive all the evidentiary video from the squads. They don't have body worn yet. Brett Semingson has been reviewing that and looking at it and understands there's some costs and concerns about body worn, but he's got people looking into it. Unfortunately, the evidence library that we purchased through WatchGuard, almost as soon as we got WatchGuard, they got bought out by Motorola. So Motorola is making us move to a brand new evidence library. They won't support the existing one, and I got a quote for $31,000 to have to upgrade that. We're currently speaking with Brett and his team, trying to figure out how we want to handle this. We cannot have a non-supported production evidence library. It has to be under some sort of maintenance. If something goes wrong with it, we can't get at that data. That's just not a viable alternative. But we also don't want to invest $31,000 in a solution that Brett may be looking to replace next year. We're not enjoying our Motorola experience. Really wish they'd have left WatchGuard alone, but this is the nature of the industry right now. Motorola's buying up everything public safety. They currently provide our Vesta system too, that we're waiting for dispatch to move. No word on dispatch's move yet. We still haven't received information. We have a meeting with Baycom this morning. We're gonna go over the connectivity between the existing radio solution and the new dispatch center, so we have that lined up. We'll further bulletins as we learn more about squad video. I may have to bring forward a resolution on that and purchase that, but we're gonna explore further. As mentioned previously by Kurt, we are working on remodel stuff for this existing building. We did talk to some cabling people, and we are proposing as part of the remodel that we restring all the connections on the second floor of the old building to a new data closet on the second floor that is part of the IT space that we're currently occupying. And then anything that needs to be restrung on the first floor, because it's under construction and they need to pull new wire, would also go to that location. But everything else on the first floor, we're just gonna, if the connection exists, we're gonna leave it going to that first floor closet. We'll also, we have plans for creating a spoke and wheel type setup with our fiber connecting the old space to the new space. So we have multiple points that should prevent any outages of substance. That's all I have for you today. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one for you. You said that you'd like to keep all the information here, but we send it to Texas, you said, right? And that's where the storage is. Is that like the cloud is in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Or what does it cost? Could we have our own cloud here? What would it cost?
We
What would it
have
cost?
we have the equipment to host here, and some of the financial systems we're looking at offer hosted and on-premise. We ask for on-premise if we can pull it off, but some don't even offer it. So it all depends on what the stakeholders involved in this process decide for a finance and HR solution. If they pick a winner that meets all the organization's goals, but they only allow us to have it hosted somewhere else, then it is what it is.
Okay.
The stakeholders have heard our preference for on-prem, and they consider it, but it can't be their primary thinking. You know, the program that they're trying to implement has to work for them, and if it happens to be off-site when we prefer it on-site, I can't get in the way of that. Whereas the sheriff's office, it's a priority for them to keep their data on-site. They really don't want to have our evidence out in the cloud somewhere and then lose access to it. The weakest link in the organization is our network connectivity. We have redundant connections through TCC that come in from two different parts, but one backhoe can really mess up your day when it comes to internet. So, as experienced by, they thought they had redundant connections at their Dallas facility, and it turned out they didn't. So, you don't know.
I'd also like to congratulate you on the money savings on the printers. That was a great idea, and it seems to be working out pretty well.
First of all, the print services thing was one of the first things I did when I arrived here, because my staff is spending 20% of their time on printers. And the organization, I thought, would be a lot more resistant, because where I came from City of Eau Claire, and they love their printers up there even more than the people here do. I tease Paul for his love of printing things out, but he has nothing on the folks up in Eau Claire. So they really took to it, and it saved my staff a ton of time. But the agreement we signed was egregious. We didn't know what we didn't know, but we hired a consultant this last time, and he helped us write an RFP that really put the organization's ducks in a row there. We have simple, straightforward methodology now. We don't get played on the contract, and years 5, 6, and 7, we won't have the lease on the equipment anymore, so we'll save even more money. We'll be $3,000 a quarter once we get to that point. So it's going in the right direction. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's good, great.
Thanks for your time.
Anybody have any questions for him? Anything? If not, thanks, Tim. Next up, Jeremy, on Maintenance Department. county, and the county emergency flip charts. That is the second.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we'll start, it's been a fairly busy month here, but it's mostly just been a lot of moves. We've been moving, we moved part of the Human Services Department into where the Sheriff's Department used to be in the old facility. And we did that in order to make room to start moving the ADRC back into this building within the next few months. So we've been disassembling desks, removing desks, cleaning offices, cleaning carpets, stuff like that. Also into the Health Department, we had worked out with Jen, who was the previous Director of Health, that she had some grants to do a facelift in some of those departments and some of those offices up there. So we repainted the walls, replaced the light fixtures, the flooring, we put in new cabinets, new countertops, and that project is about 95% done. I just have maybe about 6 or 7 square tiles to finish putting down in one of the offices on the floor, and then that'll be complete. Going along with the human services moves, I've been working on the exterior signage for parking out here on the boulevard, and I do have some mock-ups on what it would look like and the size. I've been working to try to get the sizing right, because where it would sit, I don't want to block the view of people looking right or left, depending on where they're leaving and not seeing the oncoming traffic. I'll pass it around my laptop. We have just some basic designs on there, but now, because the ADRC is moving back into the building, it's a requirement that the ADRC has exterior signage on the building where they are. And then I was informed that the logo for the ADRC will be changed at some point this month by the state. So I'm waiting for that logo to be given to me by the ADRC so that I can incorporate it into this sign so that it shows where you're going to be parking and that it's the Trempealeau County Government Center and the ADRC is located in this building.
How big are these?
Right now, the signage that I have will be 6 feet by 4 feet, sitting out on the boulevard with signs on, so it's visible from both sides. If ADRC doesn't get me a sign sample soon enough, I'll just have it built so that I can add a separate sign into the posts later below the government center sign, so that it's still there and still advertised, but if I don't, that way I don't have to wait for it. Because I'd like to get it in before the ground freezes this year, so.
When is the contract up on the building for ADRC? February?
They did the letter, so it's February.
Yeah, it's been sent to the landlord, so that's, yeah, but yeah, it would be February-ish that,
It was 90-day notice, wasn't it?
120,
Oh, 120?
yeah.
They made that.
Jeremy, where will the ADRC be moving to? Is it?
As it sits right now, they're going to be moving into the areas where I moved out Children and Family Services in the Health Department, or in the Human Services Department. So they'll be located behind some locked doors, and then when and if the remodel starts, then they'll be located where Land Management and UW Extension is after that particular project is set up. Then the biggest thing that I've had this month is I usually rent every year a skid steer to help with snow removal from the parking lots and the sidewalks and stuff like that. The company that I rent one from has changed their rental policies, and the cost that I usually pay has gone up 118% on the cost of that rental, which puts it outside of what I budgeted for this year or next year. So I did call around to a few other places and found that while they are raising their price significantly for me, it is still on par with every other place around here, whether it's John Deere or the one in Osseo or whatever. There's a whole bunch of them that I called. So what I've ended up looking at doing, normally I rent, and I don't know how familiar you are with the equipment, it's usually an X650, like a normal size Bobcat that I rent. One of the projects I looked at doing here was eventually expanding some of the sidewalks. Because that skid steer is so large, I ended up tearing up a bunch of the landscaping. But I'm looking at an L28, which is a lot smaller articulating unit. But this would actually be a lease, and it would fall into what I could afford with my current budget. until that fifth year pops around, and then it's either renewing the lease or budgeting for the purchase of the unit at the end of that lease. I am waiting to hear back on what my price is for, because I bought a couple pieces, or a couple implements for that 650 2 years ago. That way we had them in-house, but they're not compatible with this smaller unit. So I can use them as a trade-in value towards that lease. I'm just waiting to see back what they're gonna offer me on that. And then I have to take the lease to Susan up in Corp Council, because it's a contract that she has to look over to make sure that it's favorable and no little sneaky things that are gonna catch me up later if I don't notice them, so. Yes, sir.
Do you have an idea what the cost is at all for a lease versus a purchase?
So right now, it was, if I were to rent it for the 5 months, the cost was going to go from $4,500 from that 5 months to $17,500 for 5 months. If I were to purchase that unit, it will be, or lease that unit, it will be just under $12,000, and I'll have the equipment 12 months out of the year instead of the 5 months out of the year that I'll have it now. So financially, with what I'm being given, and the fact that I was just made informed of this change 2 weeks ago, of the price changes when they came up to me when I sat down to try to get this set up. So it's still more expensive than what I've normally been paying, but it's cheaper than the rental option from any of the other heavy equipment or dealers around the area.
What's it cost to buy it?
They're about 50.
Huh?
But depending on what size it is. The Bobcats run you.
They're not cheap,
No, 50,000.
give or take. So this was coming with also 2 pieces of snow removal equipment in this price. It would have a sweeper that would go along with it, a big giant brush, and actually a snow blower that would attach to this as well. This is the price with that. I have prices for each one without these right now.
And a bucket.
And a bucket. So 3 pieces of implements that go along with it, and it was $58,000 if I were to buy it outright, which is definitely outside of my budget scope for what I have this year, but.
But you're gonna spend, if I heard you correctly, you're gonna spend $12,000 a year for 5 years, 60,000?
And then at the end of that lease, then there's a remaining balance due at the end of that 5 years of,
Why wouldn't we look
If
into
you
purchasing it?
if I were to purchase it at the end of it. So at the end of the 5 years, if there's $20,000 left, it's either I budget then to purchase the unit or release another unit for another 5 years. And the lease does come with an hourly, like a 500 hours per year on the lease, but even when the snow removal that I've done in the past, I've never exceeded more than 250 hours a year in the bucket, in the trucks anyway.
Did you check with the highway department at all, Jeremy, to see?
For a rental or?
No, or just to use theirs, because I think they used to only have one, and they used it, so you couldn't get that one. But I think they're up to 2 now. If they have 2, they might have one available you could use.
I'll reach out to him today to find
And
out.
just see, and then, yeah, I mean, if I got these pricing right, 17,000 for the existing one you have a year,
Yes,
and 12,000 for the new one.
yes. Yeah, 17.5 was the rental price for
Right.
5 months.
And 12,000.
12,000 for
12
a
months.
lease price,
12 months.
and I'd have it for 12 months.
12 months. So, and in 12, 24, you have 48,000 you got in 4 years, so you got 60,000, 5, and then
And
then
then
after
every-
5 years, you have something that's got some value at
And then
least.
after 5 years, it would be a piece of equipment that the county owns here. And again, that price for the unit included, like I said, a bucket, a snow blower, a sweeper, an extended warranty, and a service plan that went along with that one. And any one of those can be removed to help lower the cost. And that service plan was just basically
And for the amount of times you use a Bobcat, I mean, after 5 years, you're not gonna have a whole lot of hours on it.
no,
right?
like I said, in the past, I've stayed under 250 hours a year doing snow here in this location. So even if I have it for 12 months out of the year, you're not gonna be adding a whole heck of a lot more, many hours to it. It would just be me moving pallets of salt or something like that. Yeah, I'd have those two, so,
Oh, you got them?
yeah.
They're not included.
No, because this one has a extendable, like a forklift on the front too, so it had that on there. But I'm working on the price of that. Again, I'm not asking for any more money. I'm just kind of informing you in case you see that there's a different piece of equipment here than normal. But I will reach out to the highway department today to find out what the status of theirs. Because I know that when I used to talk to Al before too, and he was always asking me about what the price that I paid for the rental that I had. Because I know they rented one at one point in time as well. But I'll reach out and see where we sit.
And I can't remember how many they have.
I know that, like with vehicles and stuff, there's a government price where you can get a lot cheaper than the common citizen going to buy. I think that, I'm saying, my view is that I think you should look into making a purchase and get some prices and stuff, because if you're spending $12,000 a year, 60,000, plus you gotta buy out at the end,
Yeah, there would be a remaining balance at the end of that.
well, if for 58,000, you buy the whole thing and you own it.
Yep, and then it's another thing that's on my agenda, because I need to have this done here in the next month-ish. But it's already on my calendar to reach out to Highway to see where they purchase their equipment from, because there's gotta be some sort of contract that already goes along with that. Because that's how I bought the vehicle for the maintenance department. The truck that I bought a few years ago was I saddled up with the company that the sheriff's department buys their vehicles from and got in on that pricing, so. This is just, again, a baseline of the price, because I knew that these are not cheap pieces of equipment, and I needed to try to figure out where I stood before snow started flying already, and I got stuck spending more. That's almost 2 years' worth of budget for me in snow, so.
Well, you know, I think one of the nice thing about owning is that even if you would choose to replace it after 5 years with a new one, you have the county care center and the highway department that utilize this kind of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So in-house, there could be a lot of usage for that piece of equipment. So I don't think we would lose out. In the long term, we would probably gain considerably.
No, and that's, again, why I was looking at potentially purchasing it, but financially, the way that it would work right now, if I were to purchase it right now, I'd end up having to get resolutions and coming through here and finance or Becky or however that's working right now, and I don't know how long that process would take and whether there's going to be snow on the ground. So essentially, I would still be leasing, owning, but I wouldn't have to get any more money up front right now, and I could budget for the purchase of that piece of equipment at the end of this lease.
You know, you might look into if any of these suppliers of this kind of equipment has any kind of financing program too, so that you know you might be able to, in theory, get by with over a period of 3 years or 5 years, a payment that would be not too far off from what you're talking about, the 12,000.
Yeah, and they do have different options, which is what I would be sitting
Yeah.
down with Corp Counsel for
Yeah.
too, to go over all that, so I can look at the numbers and look at the interest rates and make sure that we're not paying too much. But again, informative, just trying to let you know what's going on with that, and like I said, I'm not asking for any more, but it is kind of a sticky situation to find out this late in the year that the prices have changed that dramatically for me, so. Other than that, there's been no major instances this month. I've just been going through and adding to my list the things of that'll be going over with the warranty or the final walkthrough next week, that I can make sure that Kurt is aware of what we need to go over. We did, a few of the outstanding issues have been starting to be addressed. The fence that was sagging over on the outside of the parking lot here has been addressed, and they'll be fixing that here shortly. The pieces of brake metal out front that are missing will be, I think Kurt just said hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Yeah, should be completed up front there. I have some lock issues that I'm working at, but again, just going through, making sure that he is aware of everything that's still not completed satisfactory.
Jeremy, one question. is there a date set for the replacement or the changing of those doors downstairs, entry doors, so as to allow automatic or push automatic door?
Oh, the
opening?
opener situation?
Yeah.
I'll have to follow up with Tad on that one, because I know I've given them all the information. I'm not sure exactly where we sit with that one right now.
We'll have that for next week.
Yeah.
Last thing for me here is the emergency flip chart. I was able to meet with all of the department heads to go over the changes that needed to be done with that flip chart to update the maps. I have all of my updates and corrections ready to go. I'm just waiting for the deputy that was in charge of the active shooter portion of that to give me the updated portion of that, so that we can send that one out, and then we'll have to revise it again as soon as the remodel portion is done in the old building, because layouts are going to change again. But I've made sure that all of the department heads were aware of what the changes are going to be going forward, so.
Yeah,
And then we did obtain the okay to sit in the city train station in case of inclement weather for any departments that had to go out that way. I did get the okay from the Baptist church across the street that if it's inclement weather, that we can let staff into there. And then still had tentative okay from Scott Brown from the church. I can't remember the name of the one. Our Savior. So I do have tentative agreement from there, but I'm just waiting for him to bring it to their property committee to get the full okay for that one. But currently, Human Services utilizes a portion of that building, so if need be, these are just for worst-case situations, if it's 5 degrees outside or snowing or super raining, that people have somewhere to go that's covered and warm. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, it does, I never thought of that. We'll have the flip chart redone, but it'll be updated. It'll be nice, because we're gonna have to redo it in a year anyway.
Yeah, it's just,
So it'd be nice.
the changes after the remodel will be slight. It will just be departments that are gonna go a slightly different direction, or maybe the placement of fire extinguishers might change slightly on the map, but it wouldn't be a significant change, but it would still need to get updated.
Does anybody else have anything for Jeremy? Did I hear Kurt right when you said that you're, for the new design for the remodel, that it's like Jeremy, Becky, and Tim are kind of going through and talking to everybody to keep, well, I was just gonna remind him that you forgot to talk to Paul's office, because he said nobody's talked to him. And it'd be nice to have everybody. If you say everybody, it should be everybody.
And I get that, and again, I'll have to go back and look at the invite, whether you did or didn't, but we did meet with Mary Martin, will be the county clerk in January, once all these
Mary Martin does
things.
not know exactly what they have to have for that office. Paul
Again,
does. I mean, I'm not saying Paul, but the whole office does. Those girls down there, they kind of have a good idea.
yep, so.
I'm just, I'm not arguing with you. I mean, I just.
No, I
think-
know, I get it, and Paul
It's easy to
mentioned,
miss something.
and Paul mentioned that when it came in. I did look at the thing that I got, and it did have Paul's name on it, but it wasn't the address of the email, so I'll go through and follow up with
I
that.
just appreciate that.
Yep.
Everybody gets got. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, now. Then, well, next month's meeting, nobody have any questions for Jeremy? Nobody? Okay, next month's meeting is November 11th.
Would you be opposed to meeting on the 4th? I'm actually out of town on the 11th. If we met the week prior,
Let me think.
Exec finance, we're meeting on Thursday that week, aren't we?
Wait a second.
It would be a Monday, it would just be the week prior, be the same day of the week, just
Exec finance meets when?
Didn't you guys set it for, or is it still on the 4th? I think yours is still on the 4th, that's right.
So you'd have to have property later in the
We
day.
could have it at 10. I don't know, does anybody have issue with 10:30 or so? On the 4th?
Well,
I'm fine with
3
that.
of you will be here
You
for
okay with
exec,
Kurt?
and you
Yeah.
just hang through.
Yeah. Okay, let's go 10:30 on the 4th for property.
Thanks for doing that.
Yep. And it'd be 8:30 exec finance. Huh?
8:30. You
Yeah,
did,
the only one at eight is, the only one at
audit
8.
committee is 8.
And so is highway. Highway's always at 8.
What time are we doing property? 10:30?
10:30. That should give us
So
exec
you don't have to
finance.
get up quite as early, Kurt.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Do you want to say or anything? If not, just, I want to thank Kurt for coming on over and everything. Thank you, guys. And I call this meeting adjourned at 9:11.